Alright. Let's go ahead and get started. By first petting the dog, as always. Who's a good boy? Oh, so wait, hold on. I'm 4. Who's a good boy? Every time I come here and I try to pet you, you're doing that on the floor. I'm not sure if I should call you a good boy anymore. Seems belligerent. I killed you. False god. Alright. Hey, Blood. You can go ahead and start as Scav Girl. What gun do we want to play with? SVD? Why not? SVD and... Unsilenced M4? Sure. You did miss dog getting pet, correct? $54R. I can just like never find this rank. Right, okay, it looks the same, that's why. And then 556, we'll bring like 300. Lies? I mean, when has he ever answered your? Why am I slow? When has he ever answered your prayers? I will say, like, it's kind of silly how like every other every other character is typically mostly fine with being overweight or carrying a lot in their packs, and the second you hit a threshold with Scav Girl, it's just it's the slowest possible character. I would rather like to see your instances of Rat King actually answering your prayers. Rat King is a false god. Okay, can you probably be a VOD of Rat King answering your prayers? A GIF, a recording?
Another beautiful day on the surface.
He's camera shy, understood. How convenient. Butterfly effect. God, English is so hard. Butterfly effect. Because I took that one shot and killed that one Euruscan soldier, Europe is not going to win the conflict over the global scale. I have tilted the odds of power. I guess the odds of power. The balance of power. Yeah, I killed John Uruska. Would it be Jane Uruska if it's a girl? I mean, that tracks, right? Jane's like the opposite of John, or just the female counterpart of John. I mean, we haven't had a patch in a while. I mean, naturally, always you're pretty rare up here. Naturally, try restarting your computer, but like, I guess the thing I would say is go check your like benchmarks and see if it's your computer or the actual game itself that's got a dip in performance for whatever reason. Oh, there goes the tanks. Oh god. Well, at least on the plus side, the guy inside there is definitely passed out. Oh god, there's two of them. It's just the tracers are so large. Like, they're not that big. They're almost like maybe 20 mils at most. I mean, granted, they're quad 20 mils, but still. Ah, yes, the moonwalking. I mean, you could try upping your shader cache if you're NVIDIA. It could be trying to redo the shaders for some reason. Yeah, I do like the exclamation points. I do think they probably need to add in the caveat where, like, if you shoot them while they're exclamation pointed, they do aggro. It's a good first step, but yeah, they definitely need that extra caveat, or that extra kind of change where if they're in that state where they're aware of you but fighting something else, if you choose to shoot them, it breaks their attention. Or perhaps they can make it a chance too, as opposed to just a flat, like a flat aggro pull that... Oh god! Oh, fuck me! Oh god! I killed... I guess I probably looted a map or two. Or a picture or two. They heard me talking shit about their 20 mils. Oh. We see that you grabbed a few pictures. We're deploying our prime medium mech asset to deal with you. Those pictures can't get out. No. What was I saying? Fuck. No, but yeah, actually, back to the exclamation points, right? So, like, in the March patch, they introduced a new aggro state where they could be aware of you, but are actively fighting something else, and that's indicated with an exclamation point. And perhaps on one side of it, having it be 100% chance of the, having it be 100% chance when they're, like, you shoot them, they aggro to you. Perhaps just make it a percentile, like 25% chance, 50% chance. So, like, if you start shooting them while they're fighting another squad, if you're too aggressive with it, you can pull their attention away. That should probably be the case too, I guess, with, like, I don't know, in regards to, like, one-shot headshotting squad mates and then not responding. Where was I? It's a bit weird. I guess they don't have a state right now where they're aware but don't know where you are. That's kind of how the investigation state's kind of like that, but it's much easier than that because all it's doing is basically walking towards you to investigate. It's not searching an area. Thanks, Smurf. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see. They've talked about PS5 before, so we'll definitely see on that front. I mean, it's Unreal Engine 5, right? So it can't be that crazy to slot in. And they've also mentioned multiple times that, like, and they've also done it too, right? Where they're working on kind of controller configs and outputs and so on and so forth. So console players are on their mind at least it seems like they are. Yeah, we'll go 200. 387. No, I didn't. For some reason, recently my mind has broken. Is it Path of Exile? It's probably fucking Path of Exile making me think that. Where I keep selling stuff from the right-hand side and thinking that I'm buying things. That's entirely on me, though. My Path of Exile rotted brain. Yeah, like there's different ways of doing like the squad getting a member lost or headshot. It probably requires a much more complicated system though. As opposed to just adding the additional modifier to, you know, shooting a squad while they're aggro to something else. Hey Nasco. Take two. Man, those poor shotgunners got actually heavily nerfed by the shotgun change. There's no way they win these fights now. Before they would actually come out ahead because the shotguns actually do shred versus cyborgs, but now with the shotgun nerf, oh man. And actually, I wouldn't even say it's like a nerf too, right? It's like, it seems like it has the same or almost the same damage. It's just spread over now over a much larger... Not like this. Not like this. Not like this. I'm speed. Oh god, trade. I'm speed. Conga line of cyborgs. I wonder if they should like... I wonder if they should change cyborgs to be perhaps slightly different speeds. There's not just Merv, we don't know. I mean, like, we can presume probably end of April, early to mid-May from their current cadence. But other than that, we really just don't know. They might take longer this patch, they might take shorter. And I'm just not hitting my headshot today. There we go. But no, yeah. Yeah, add some spread, but I think the one thing too, right, is they could do something along the lines of making the speed of individual cyborgs have some variance. So perhaps you like spread it over like 5%. So it's maybe more than that, maybe 10%. So you have some cyborgs that are faster than others. So essentially that's a way of creating issues or changes where like some cyborgs will move around other cyborgs to help path, creating some volume to their formation without having it be just like static V formation. But yeah, the conga line, I would say, like, the formations are pretty rigid right now too, with like they try. There is an occasional scenario where they will actually use a V formation, but that's because they're programmed to do so, and like they'll try their darndest and like they'll obstruct their, like they'll do weird things to make sure they stay in that formation. So maybe it's some kind of middle line where like it's much more organic how they form formations. Like maybe they have like a tendency to go into a V, but like they don't necessarily always abide by it. Honestly, in a way, it's just like the variance of the V, right? Like, I think its uniformity right now is probably the issue. Just add some, like, degrees of, like, you know, width change, depth change, like, you know, different... Just, like, add some modifiers in to add change to, like, how far they're away, how deep the V goes, so on and so forth. Maybe, you know, some variance in regards to how tightly they hold the V. Yeah, King. I think we've actually officially reached the top for the genre, and now we're probably on the quick descent. I do not think Marathon's going to do very well. I could be absolutely wrong. I have no idea. We saw it with the Cycle Frontier, and I mean, naturally, Bungie is a AAA studio. It's different, but like, I cannot see that game doing well. And if their whole thing is they want to be a niche extraction shooter game, sure. But like, if I understand Bungie correctly as a business, and they're trying to appeal to a mass audience so they make money, I think they're going to wildly miss the mark. I think. Granted, you can never know this when you're starting to develop a game, but I think they're hitting the fatigue point. They were releasing when there is some clear fatigue in the market, I believe. And actually, like, the key is, like, how the fuck do they know that when they're starting to develop the game? When, you know, probably it's at its peak. It's not really their own fault, really. But, like, at the same time, shit. Yeah, I know that it's not very in line with the old Marathon lore from original Bungie days. Are you an orc? No, okay. I thought I saw his mandibles, his side bones, I guess what you call them. I thought those were like those were actually teeth, like giant bottom canines. Yeah, I mean that's pretty par for the course, Michael. Scaling size weirdness. Yeah, I mean, as Bungie does, right, I'm sure the gunplay will feel good. But, like, I wouldn't go as far to say it's slop. It's gonna be mediocre. Like, that's the feeling I'm getting. It's gonna be mediocre, and because that doesn't really shine above its counterparts, I think it's gonna fall flat. There's fatigue in the market, and I just cannot see a scenario where that game is novel enough to pull people who are kind of moved on or kind of complacent with the genre to buy in.
Just what I always wanted.
And naturally, I can be completely wrong, but that's kind of how I feel right now about, like, gaming in general, is that in regards to extraction shooters, conventional ones, super conventional ones, it's kind of done. And applying that to this game, right, the only thing I would say this game has that's like necessarily extraction shooter-esque is the map kind of setup where you load in and, like, you know, you do stuff and then leave. And we'll have to see how they add stuff or how they optimize it in the future or change their game plan in the future, because this might just be one of those, right? It might just be an extraction shooter, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, it's Bungie, right? It's gonna have MTX. That's a par for the course. I mean, generally, Bungie is very good, though, about only doing cosmetics. And cosmetic, you know, microtransactions are like, they're fine. Yeah, I've heard, Michael, that like Toothy can spawn at the extraction point here if you spawn a bunker and go across the other way. Oh, we're leaving. Fuck the chopper. But I've never seen it. I believe people when they say it happens, but I just can't. I have not had it happen once to me yet. And to be fair, like if we think about the whole like wave 2, right? We had like the extraction shooter start like come to fruition in 2018. Didn't really pop off until like 2020, 21 with like, you know, COVID and all that shit. And then a little bit before COVID too, I think. So it popped off in that area, right? And then like we're 4 or 5 years later after its high point, so it definitely feels like it should be in a lull. It's definitely the point where it's overplayed now and it needs time to cool off. And there's nothing wrong with like ripping off mechanics from it, but just like making a pure extraction shooter is a mistake right now. Hell, the best thing they could have done probably was literally pull a the best thing they could have done was just pull a Apex, yeah. So for those unfamiliar, Apex actually did something that was pretty fucking smart, which is somewhat weird for EA, but you know, give them props where it's due. EA released a battle royale game probably during this kind of phase, right, where the genre was in a down point or like descending. It was kind of in this lull, and so I believe if they marketed the game and tried to sell it before they released it, it would have gone very poorly or not as good as it did. Them just randomly saying, hey, a new game is out, go play it, it's free to play, was a stupidly smart marketing choice. Like, it's so like crazy how well it worked. I can't give anything but props. But like on that note, it feels like Marathon should have probably been along that, right? Where if they're gonna do a very bog standard kind of extraction shooter, don't give people time to process it. If your whole goal, right, is to get people to buy in to a pretty ultimately fairly generic extraction shooter, despite it having, I guess, Bungie's flair and Marathon. If your goal is to present your really good gameplay loops and refined gameplay, don't let people cook on it. Do what freaking EA did. Just release the game. Just drop it. That way you get like this huge marketing push that's just organic right out the gate. I mean, if Bungie's big enough where, like, if they randomly drop a game, yeah, it's gonna get noticed. And so naturally when you do something like that, it's gonna get a huge, just natural organic marketing spread from creators wanting to profit off of it. And at that point, it's kind of it's in Fate's hands. But I feel like letting Marathon stew in people's minds for the next months or year before it comes out, it's not going to do any favors. A 100% factual, and that's kind of the point I make in regards to just dropping it. If you just drop a game randomly like that, I feel like you're just saying, hey, come play the game, let the gameplay speak for itself. While in contrast to right now, with Marathon, people are having all of this time to stew with what they have about it, right? And all they can really go off is what people are saying and its aesthetics, right? They can't really, they can look at the gameplay, but they can't actually, you know, gauge the gameplay solely off of looking at someone play it, right? And so the focus of the game or the marketing right now shifts, I guess, from the gameplay more to just the whole general feel of it. And if your feel of your game is kind of extraction shooter genre generic, let's just say, I mean, I do not have high hopes for it. I think it's hitting a really bad spot right now in regards to the market. Exactly, King. Like, on that point, right? Like, I trust Bungie at the end of the day to have a good gunplay experience. It's the thing that, like, you can watch Destiny and not understand it, but like when you play Destiny, you have to appreciate how smooth and how responsive and how good the guns feel in Destiny, right? Like, I cannot say this enough, like, Bungie does gunplay amazingly, but it's something you really kind of feel, not necessarily can just watch, right? It's more of a like, parts of it you can get from just watching it, but like a lot of it's gonna be playing it and feeling it for yourself. And when that's the key premise of your game is like, we're Bungie, we do guns right, you gotta play it, right? You can't really watch it. No, yeah, it's definitely factual, like, it's appealing to the people of old who are like, well, the problem is, though, the people who might know what Marathon is from back in the day are definitely almost certainly not interested in a PvP extraction shooter. So it begs the question, if it's nothing like the original, why even bother naming it Marathon? I mean, it could be, too, that they're just unaware of the demographic aging out of extraction shooters, too, right? As people go from, like, their 20s to 30s, they generally lose interest in PvP. That could be the case, too, right? If they're trying... I mean, if they're trying to keep the IP under their umbrella. Yeah, I mean, like, if you're going for name recognition, King, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because, like, sure, you might hit a little bit of serotonin in people's heads from, like, if they've ever played Marathon or they heard about it, right? But I don't feel like that does all that much. I wouldn't know, though, to be honest. Really? No one else? We're good? Drones? Was the cycle not on console? Am I misremembering? I could have swore, was the cycle not on console? Maybe it just looked like a console game. That's a good point, though, Justin Murray. If it's the only extraction shooter on consoles, it's, you don't get a choice, here you go. That's perfectly fair if they're appealing to that market segment. I'm sure they'll get some clout there. Doesn't Call of Duty have, like, some ripoff mode now, too, though? Am I crazy? Didn't, like, Call of Duty rip it off a while ago? I mean, it'd be very on brand for COD to do that too. Yeah, like, I feel like I heard it like a year or two ago that COD got a mode like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, COD is the great. Thanks for 1 month dubs. COD is like the great, like, yeah, it was meh, yeah, DMZ. COD's a great melting pot, right? Where ideas go to die. No, I mean, die is, that's just me being pedantic. I wouldn't say die, but like to be kind of generalized, right? To see if they're open to a mainstream audience. Are you predicting Blood Panic to go the way of Concord? Them having the audacity to ask for $40 for a game they want to blow up in this day and age? No, don't you do it. Yeah, I can definitely see it not. Well, the problem, I guess, like that's a good point to raise up too, right? In regards to, you know, the price tag. That was kind of Concord's things also, right? Where like, are we getting shot at? Oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm sorry. Fucking cloud cars, freaking Euruskins. Oh. We good? We're good. Thank God they didn't have grenades. Yeah, like, well, it's more in the sense of if their marketing material misses, which it kind of feels like it might be doing right now, the $40 price tag is gonna keep people from giving it an honest try, right? They're gonna wait for people to review it. And like, they're gonna wait for, like, not influencers, but they're just gonna wait for general reviews, right? They're not going to pull the trigger immediately. It's gonna cause some reservations, right? Think of it this way. If Concord launched free-to-play and picked up, say, 100k players on its first week or day, right? Even if they had terrible retention, that still might create a small user base where people genuinely enjoy the game, right? Like, even if they only keep 100, like 1% or 2%, that's still 1 or 2k to keep up with. It hurts, but like, you can keep a game active with that, right? A live service game. So, you know, grow into the future. But because they had a price tag, those people who were on the fence chose not to go over the fence. Yeah, it depends, right, Blood Panda, but like on that point too though, right, if they don't, like, I'm kind of like, ask the question, who is the game really for? What need are they satisfying in the market? Because if the need that they're trying to satisfy is, you know, a less hardcore, more sci-fi extraction shooter, I have bad news for them. It's called the Cycle Frontier. You already have someone who tested the market and failed. Granted, and you can make the case too that the Cycle closed down or shut shop too early, because the Cycle Frontier, for all the like, you know, it's bad cloud because it failed, it did actually do a fairly good job of solving a pretty egregious cheating issue. And naturally there'll always be cheaters, but like, it actually tried and did it. But the problem was it was kind of too little too late. The damage was done. So maybe if their idea right was the cycle was actually doing pretty fine, it just had a cheating problem. That I guess they could say that, and that's why Marathon exists. What were some Overwatch clones back in the day? Kind of feels like that a little bit, right? Oh yeah, Paladins, oh, Dirty Bomb, like, yeah, Battle Board, Paladins. There's TF2, I mean, TF2 is always eternal, right? Gun Evolution. All of those games are like, let's make our own hero shooter. And try to untrench the established one. It's kind of, it's these cycles, right? Of just, you saw it with WoW back in the day too. World of Warcraft, that whole like post WoW era, where like for the next like 6 to 8 years, it was MMOs that were like basically WoW clones. They like, because they knew WoW did well, they were not willing to explore the space far outside of that, and so every MMO felt like a WoW clone. We can do expansion, why not? If you're peeing on the carpet again, you're not getting a pet. Can you contain yourself? Alright, who's a boy? You know, typically, you reward dogs for good behavior to train them. You don't just like look at them and make sure they don't. Oh, god damn it! I just can't with you. Just can't. All right, what gun? No, but going back to Marathon, I like... There's so many better... There's literally... It pees on the one solid piece right here. If it peed right here, it would just fall down. It would be perfect. But it wants to do it right where there's something solid for it to land on. There's so many better spots. It's utterly absurd. Alright, 3 away. No, but yeah, I mean, I wish Bungie the best because they've had it rough for a while now. Between the whole, like, we're alone, now we're back with Sony sort of deal. They've been hurting, it looks like they've been hurting financially for a while. And I ultimately, despite me not liking the FOMO they have in Destiny, I do genuinely enjoy Destiny. I think the IP is really cool. And like, in a way, it kind of feels like if Marathon doesn't do well, Bungie's kind of fucked. At the very least, they're gonna get hit by a major restructuring if Marathon doesn't do very well. The lore, Destiny does almost. Destiny 2's only biggest sin, right, was that when they made it, they didn't have enough time to create a lot of content, and 2, they didn't make it for the scale they needed to do for it, right? But like on a lore standpoint, everything about Destiny the game is great. Everything about Destiny the business side is kind of The business being the MTX, and then like the FOMO mechanics that get you to keep playing. And I will say, it's their own engine, right? I'm pretty sure it's their own engine. I'm kind of... They got a good, solid pipeline out, and it's hard to fault them all that much, right, Bungie? Because the stuff they do put out is generally pretty polished and works fairly seamlessly, which is the sign of quality, right? That they do their due diligence Q&A wise. But Destiny was always that cycle, right, of like, it really only gets an update once a year. You had the quarterly updates every quarter, naturally, because it's not every quarter, but like, they were generally very small quarterly updates, right? That would only satisfy you for, like, if you were an avid Destiny player, they might keep you occupied for a few weeks. And so then you just have to kick the can around for another 2 months before another patch comes out. And then like, that's like, and you're doing that kicking the can for like the entire time until the annual fall update, which is actually big. Essentially, in a way, I'm basically saying they never got like a pipeline where it felt like they were able to put out enough content that people wanted that wasn't just filler. And then them having to vault a lot of their stuff too, because the project was getting too untenable, just kind of didn't like should not like a lack of foresight sounds malicious, so it's not necessarily that, just it wasn't malicious, but it's definitely dropped the ball. Is that medium mech over there? Yeah, if your pipeline is to make money, it's one thing, right? If your pipeline is to like create sustainable content, it's a different story. I guess kind of in a way the same thing, but yeah, I mean it's always hard, King, because like, should you really worry about the future when you're really worried about the, like, when you're developing a game, right? Do you really want to worry about the issues of like 7 to 8 years down the line if you have success? Or do you want to make sure you actually have success first?
Peace through discovery.
And so naturally they chose the latter, and I can't really fault them for that, despite the fact that like they had to sunset literally most of the game during that one period. I kind of wish there was more up there, right? There's like this one container up here and that's it. I'm guessing this will eventually be a respawn point for Europans. Like a Huey coming in and dropping off soldiers. I say Huey, I really hope it's not a Huey. The M16 kind of gives me pause. I'm really hoping it's not a Huey. It would both be cool and make it like... When I would see, if I saw a Huey in this game, I'd be like, oh hey, that's cool, but also, fuck, really? Oh no, King, that's perfectly fair, right? Like the sunsetting thing was a very big deal in Destiny, right? Your exact point you're making right now is like the exact sentiment that most of the community had, where like, yeah, you should not be sunsetting most of the content in this game. So there's a halfway through a gun rework. The ADSing is better. The general gunplay is better. It's still got a ways to go. Movement hasn't been touched at all, but like if your main issue was the clunkiness of the guns, it's getting better. We're probably only about halfway through a gun rework right now, though. Technically speaking, since the launch of the game, everything has gotten improved, but it's still heavily a work in progress. I know there's currently nothing in the game that feels like it's complete yet in regards to systems Like, the movement still feels placeholder or work in progress, the camera, the gun, so on and so forth, everything. I would say, so I'll get to you on movement in a second. I actually have a good example of this. The headhunters have been changed a little bit here and there. They've been tuned a bit. They're ultimately still the same, but you really only trigger them if you're super belligerent. It's easy to trigger them with groups, though. It's one of the things that haven't been touched all that much. Yeah, Record, this map is new. It came out in the December patch. Yeah, it's relatively new. It's by far the best map in the game, too. I don't think it's that bad. They have tweaked it, but ultimately they haven't done a rework of it, so it is the same. Typically, there's certain items that will grab their attention, and as long as you know what those are, they won't bother you. I mean, it's less about the aesthetic blood, but more about just the gameplay of the map for me, right? Like, if you theme this map differently but kept a similar layout, I'd still like it. The concepts here being right is the map does a good job with a lot of negative space. And by negative space, I mean the water. Essentially, areas of the map internal to the map and not exterior to the map, where it adds volume to the map but not a playable area to the map. In a way, it creates choke points through the map where you can have conflict happen or choices happen, and not have to do all the development work that's really hard to do a wide area. In a way, because other maps give you the option of just running around in the open without having to move you through certain areas via the water, they can feel a bit empty and just kind of Alright, so key premise here, right? You see how we move through all this stuff here? The problem with a lot of the movement in the game, now part of it is just because the movement's clunky, 100%. Part of it's because the movement is clunky, that is what it is. But part of it's because stuff like this is not consistent. I agree that this stuff should not block you from moving. Most games realize that, right? Like in regards to, yeah, it would be interesting to have bushes block your movement, but it's too impeding on gameplay and people hate it. Just like this, right? Like, and so we just phase through this because it feels better gameplay wise. If we got stuck on that, it would suck. The alternative is you add a very convenient, like, invisible ramp so that you just naturally walk over it. But that requires a lot of manual work. So coming from my Hammer days, Hammer is a editor in CSGO, or Counter-Strike, not even Go. Typically speaking, right, you would have collisions on props themselves, but you could also define basically an ethereal collision box to have, and you could basically change it however you wanted to, right? But essentially staircases, right? The way you would make them, a staircase in most games isn't typically a staircase, it's a ramp. It just looks like a staircase. And so in Counter-Strike, for example, you would have a staircase, but then after you make the staircase, oh god, you would configure it ethereally to be a ramp, right? And so in that case, a lot of the maps feel like they're missing that right now. They're missing that extra step where they're going over the props themselves and making an actual, like, layer above that you cannot see that helps smooth out movement. And that's just a time-consuming thing, right? You're up, but they're dead. But another example of this too kind of falls in the level itself, where I like this example a lot because it just feels so weird. It also helps with pathing too, right? The Ergomex not being able to walk over things has pathing issues. In a way, it kind of needs its own nav mesh too. This bar is a great example too of just something that feels mechanically off, right? Where it's big enough where it feels like you shouldn't be able to move through it, but it's also just like in the middle of the open causing issues, right? It almost feels like it should be lower to the ground, kind of there ambiently, and then just have a ramp over it. Like, it being here in front of you just feels awkward, right, for movement purposes. And there's lots of stuff like this in the game, especially on older maps too, right? Stuff on the ground will block you like this. It feels weird and obtuse why this is here the way it is, in that you can't walk through it. And the problem is, it makes sense why you wouldn't be able to walk through it. It's big enough to warrant that, but it's just awkward. See, case in point here, like these boxes are perfect, right? Well, ooh, I mean, I guess it kind of makes it's rough, right? Because you can walk over it sometimes and not all the times. Yeah, I mean, King, we'll see if they ever get to that level of granularity. I mean, there's always gonna be that issue, right, where you just kind of trick or punk the AI by that. We're gonna do the train up here. It would be nice to have, I would say probably a better solution is just grenades for indirect fire. And like, case in point too, a lot of the newer maps are work in progress. Like every map they've released since basically the game came out are called in progress. And they're all basically missing a polish patch. A polish pass. English is so fucking hard. No, there's definitely some games that do it right. The question is always bandwidth. Nice to have or need to have. And it's really hard too, just like guessing what their needs to have are, considering that like there's definitely considerable things they have to leave on the table. Yeah, you can see that. I mean, it does have that kind of old school kind of feel to it a little bit, right? And that was definitely part of their inspiration too, right? Was like those old school PlayStation games. Darius, I'm playing all high, 1440p, 60% scaling on a 3080. Keep in mind, I mentioned this before in a post also, it's very weird. I know DLSS now, I just do scaling. DLSS has issues in the game. There's a few maps that just bug out with it on. Keep in mind, there's a difference between watching a game and playing a game. And maybe it's because of YouTube's compression or something like that. It's... watching 60 FPS and playing 60 FPS look entirely different. Like, I'm not saying the game's not smooth for me, but like, if I ever go back and watch my VODs, it looks smoother. And it could just be interpolation too, right? And making sure it's a steady 60 FPS could just make it look smoother. Drone tree. I don't think we're ever gonna get the like. It would be so cool if these ever become active. I don't think they ever will be, but man, would they be cool. You can see two actually, just one of them's a fucking polygons. One of them is not even a drone, it's just a fucking bunch of polygons. I'm not sure if I have necessarily a favorite right now. I've always enjoyed the RPK. And I generally don't bother with the sidearm. Daros, I'll give you the generic kind of performance reply for this game. Two things. One, it's fairly heavy on the CPU. And two, increase your shader size cache. It seems that 10 gigs is not enough for this game. And it makes it smoother if you play over that. And I think the next next level up is 100. But other than that, it's a fairly CPU intensive game. Suppressor, so the suppressor is, yes, it makes you stealthier, but like, I would consider it just more, not a gimmick per se, but like, binary in the sense of, there's not noise in the game really, it's just how enemies will react to a certain gun. Essentially, enemies will react to... Daros, I would go look up, actually, perhaps, some issues with that CPU series. I've been seeing a few people notice or note with a CPU of 9th gen Ryzen, or whatever gen Ryzen that is, having issues with lower FPS than they're expecting. So I would say go to Google, look around a bit. People were saying you need to unpark your cores, like X, Y, and Z, so look into that, because it definitely seems that people are having issues with that series of CPUs. Not necessarily the X3Ds, but just that generation of Ryzen. I've seen stuff about that, no problem. So, Esty, going back to your point, suppressors kind of work in... Essentially, you have unsuppressed guns and you have suppressed guns. And it's either or, right? There's nothing in between. And so the way it works, right, is when you shoot a gun that's unsuppressed, areas around you will notice you. And they'll get pretty aggressive at seeking you out. If they're occupied with another enemy, they will focus on that first. But when they deal with that enemy, they'll go look for you. And by looking for you, I mean they know where you are. They're just trying to path to you. With a suppressed gun, none of that happens. The only time you can really draw attention with a suppressed gun is if you shoot someone and you don't immediately kill them. And that's the big thing to note. If you one-shot anyone in the head, you will not draw their aggro, the squad's aggro around them. Celestial, you are not. Once you are in raid, there are some soft mechanics that kind of... There is no hard limit. Once you're in the game, you're in the game. There's a mechanic called Hunter Killers, where it will kind of... If you do too much on a map, you'll occasionally get a unit called a Hunter Killer, and it's kind of there to add pressure or kind of push you along the way, right? If you know how they happen, you can generally avoid them, though. And some maps don't have them at all. But no, if you, like, say for example, if you do nothing and you're like, let's just say we go to a quiet part on the map, we could go AFK for, oh, no, yeah, it's no problem. Don't apologize for asking questions. You're perfectly fine. You can, like, if you wanted to, you could spawn, go hide in a corner, and then go AFK for a day and come back, and it wouldn't have kicked you out. Now, is there a chance something might have killed you? Maybe, but typically they don't go to spawns. Come on, give me the last quest game. Come on. Stop giving me the same quests. There we go. I mean, if Lordos can, maybe. Probably not, though. He's like actually a pure robot, not a cyborg, like, or whatever Orgamech is. Yeah, this is fun. Michael, let's not. I've gone AFK on maps a long time. It does not happen. There's weird, quirky things that happen sometimes where it might feel like that, but I feel like those are bugs. I have gone AFK or hidden on maps before for very long periods of time and nothing happens. I don't think you can feed the crow.
Time to carve him up.
Can't say I've actually tried though. Pet the dog, pray to the false god. That we don't do that anymore here. I think at any time, I don't recall any instances of just purely time being a factor in raid for triggering HKs. There's been like a few times where like it's felt like that, and I'll go confirm it later, and it's not the case. Like, there's certainly weird instances where you'll get HKs for like no reason, but those feel more like bugs as opposed to intentions, right? What the fuck is the dog? But for real though, where the hell is the dog? There you are, you piece of shit. I'm speed. I mean, dogs are rare enough where I just don't get them in the first place, right? Like, I've maybe ran into dog out of probably the, like, let's just say 100 times I run Frozen Swamp, I might see the dog 1 or 2 of them. No. I don't know why this spawn's broken. A few of the spawns have broke since the new update. This being one of them. Well, I didn't want you in a book. Yeah, I have no idea, Michael. I mean, it needs to get bigger, right? Because, like, naturally every game you play with shaders is going to require those. RC law, what? Conspiracy! Be freed, my child. We rescue these civilians, they get back to our innards and immediately get thrown over the edge as they take up too much water. A sacrifice for the, sacrifice for Rat King. No. You see nothing. Oh yes, the movement's great, don't worry. We're just I mean, until the left side works perfectly fine. You don't see anything? John, that's typically the case, right? Yeah, it depends on the gun you're using, and opening containers and loot you acquire, and also like the damage you do. Oh, no containers. Oh well. There's like 3 optional spawns over here for containers. But no, yeah, traditionally HKs are triggered by a few factors. Certain items will have you drop them, or have you get them. The guns you shoot and how much you kill enemies will be the primary factors. I like Gunhead. I think I like the different game style he promotes kind of differently. I like it. I like his drawback. But there is a friction with characters like that, right? Where, like, say for example, you're playing with your friends, and you're like, hey, cool, I want to play the robot guy. And so you play the robot guy. However, let's say for example, you die in raid, right? And as Gunhead, you can't heal, you're just dead. They can't pick you up. And so now there's this friction between you and your friends where, like, they want to still play perhaps in the raid, but now you're knocked out and they can't help you at all. Essentially what I'm saying is the way Gunhead's currently designed, I think, just creates a lot of feel bad moments and a lot of friction between people playing together.
Time to divvy it up.
And so if they approach it in such a way where Gunhead has, as opposed to the character designs were kind of when you want to play with your friends, right? It should be a question more of why do, like, pick a character because I want this character to do something that be beneficial for the party, right? And right now, all of the characters are mere just downsides as opposed to upsides. Essentially, if Gunhead's gonna have a flaw that big, it feels like he needs better boons to offset that. And even then, I still think he probably needs a way to pick him up. And you can say it's an item, right? But like, even at that same time, I'm not sure if just having a special medkit for Gunhead would feel all that good, right? I mean, it's cool on one part, right? At the same time, like, it's a fine solution just having him heal with like mech repair parts. I'm just kind of torn the whole, like, is it asking? There's a fine line between interesting and convoluted. And naturally, having Gunhead repair with mech parts isn't convoluted per se. It just creates, I feel like, scenarios where I don't know. It's rough. I would probably start at a baseline where Gunhead can't heal, but you can pick him up. Alright, let's go over Gunhead. I would honestly need more time to sit down and stew on it. And so much of it depends too on the intention, right? And we just don't know the intention. Yeah, I mean, On one point, it has to do with item bloat. On some considerations, mainly because there's already a lot of shit in the game for items, and you can just repurpose the medkits or the mech repair parts, right? If I have any, as that. Like if your whole point was you're gonna change to say, where are you? I'm sure I have you in here. Or back parts. So if you were just gonna like have one of these be a repair kit as opposed to a healing kit, that's fine, but best gun, it just depends. I mean, if you're going for a rifle that can be silenced, probably this. So the reason why this is better than better rifles is because you use 308. 308 hits a threshold with a headshot multiplier where it will one-shot most, if not all, infantry. In a way, Momentum, that would kind of be the case. I would prefer just having to repair Gunhead that takes time, as opposed to him requiring necessarily a healing kit. Or maybe it's something you could find in Raid 2, I don't know, but like I would have to sit down and stone it, but like I'm not necessarily against the idea of him having a bespoke medkit to himself, but at the same time, right? It feels like a weird scenario where I just feel like I'm thinking about possible ways it would feel in game, and I'm not sure if it would land all that well. Now, I would say I would be much more interested in it from it too if it was more upon Gunhead themselves to have it. So, for example, right, if you could passively use a medkit in Gunhead's inventory to heal him, I would be much more on board with it. But like, I guess the main fact, like something in consideration, right, is if I view this as a friction point, right? Say, for example, you're playing with your group of friends, right? And say your Gunhead, you get downed, and you brought medkits for yourself, but no one else did, and now they can't heal you. So they have to be able to interact with your inventory and then use that medkit on you. Or bring some for you. In a way, it's asking other players to still accommodate for you. But if they made it where it's more upon the Gunhead themselves, if Gunhead brings a repair kit, you can still use it if it's in his inventory. Going back to best gun, by the way. So I said the SA-58. The downside of this gun, by the way, is ammo. The RPK is a fair trade-off. You lose your ability to headshot some infantry, but you get an extra 45 rounds in your gun, along with having more ammunition readily available to you. So it's a trade-off, but like, either or, really. Do you want more bullet or less bullet, basically? I mean, here's the... I mean, Duffs, it becomes more a problem of, do you want to nerf Gunhead or do you want to buff other characters? And because right now other characters don't necessarily do anything interesting other than their HP basically pools, I feel like there's plenty of room to make characters more interesting and by extension stronger than just take a knife to Gunhead. I'm not saying never nerf, but I would say be much careful about nerfing than buffing. Especially considering we're still in this period where a lot of the characters are leaving a lot on the table. And like, no matter what, you can be 2 or 3k HP, right? Firing squads are still firing squads in this game. If you're in the open versus a squad, you're still gonna get fucking shredded, regardless of how much HP you have. See you, King. Thanks for stopping by.
Close combat authorized.
Alright, let's get inside. Yeah, that's progression. Progression's definitely not even close to considerations right now. Like, there's no economy in game, there's no progression. Hey, Vinny. How's it going? But yeah, progression and like stuff like that, just not even in the cards right now. Thanks so much, Vinny. Appreciate it. Cows. Well, there's a lot today, actually. This is... Now, most of them are empty, but this is a lot of balloons. I usually don't see this many balloons. Yeah, very active, actually. Yeah. It still utterly baffles me that that's probably it's just for food. For people who are familiar with food chains, if you're trying to feed a large population, cows are not a good way of doing that. Cows are actually an abhorrent way of doing that. I imagine... I mean, I imagine they're grown and fed, like, via tubes and stuff. I'm sure, like, they're like lab-grown cows. They're not... There's no pastures for them. They're literally grown in a tube, like, fed proteins or energy and stuff like that. But... Listen. Bear with me, Hao. Bear with me. Would you rather have a cow, or would you rather get, like, a flock of chickens sent for you? Yeah, but Lil Papa, think of it this way. Would you rather, I guess if your point is you don't want to give them chickens because you don't want them to be able to feed themselves with eggs, okay. I feel like pigs, though, would be great, right? I mean, if you're unfamiliar with pigs, they'll eat anything. They'll eat anything. So it feels like pigs would be like perfect post-apocalypse. Like, you know, livestock. Imagine how happy you would probably feel as your open soldier if you know your meat tin was pig and not people. And also, if you're unfamiliar with pigs too, right? Holy shit, do they breed fast. They also go feral fast too, which would be interesting. Dude, oh, new idea. Oh man, feral it would track so fucking hard too if you know about pigs. Like actual flocks of pigs in this setting. Naturally feral pigs like warthogs, right? You're just journeying through the city looking for like scrap, and you come across a flock of feral pigs. Yeah, boars basically, yeah. Alright, I apologize. I need to get a better angle to this. That definitely hurt. Fucking shotguns. I know there's more of you there. Nothing? Really? Now, wild boars are crazy. Let's just, like, if you're unfamiliar with America, in the southeast to like middle southeast, like so like Texas to like the East Coast, wild boars are pretty, is endemic the right word? I don't know. There's wild boars fucking everywhere. And so like, unlike most hunting laws where it's like, hey, you get like 1 or 2 of these, like don't go crazy, it's like that. It's more of, hey, go grab an automatic rifle, get in a chopper, and start fucking shooting the shit out of these guys. Because there's so fucking many goddamn pigs around. Like, you can do that in Texas. You can, like, literally pay to go on a helicopter ride and gun down wild hogs. And the thing is, though, too, you do that, and you're, like, you're not even putting a dent in them. Now, on the downside, I will say, feral hogs, generally terrible meat. Like, unedible meat. Inedible meat. So it could be the case where I guess cows are better than pigs in that regard, because if pigs go feral, their meat gets bad real quick. Essentially, hormones are not good for meat production, and they have a fuck ton of hormones when they're feral. I'm sure you probably could. Would it be good? Probably, maybe not. I mean, yeah, probably. But no, like, pigs would eat all this shit up, man. Hell, they should be used for janitors too, right? If your goal, hell, it might even be your Ruskin. If your goal is recycling biomass, holy shit, you probably can't get better than fucking pigs. So maybe that could be like a Euruskin thing, perhaps. Euruskins use pigs to collect biomass. Basically, I'm equating Euruskins to Tyranids at this point. They want the biomass. But like, if your goal with Euruska is like, I guess, having fuel, like, it would be super fucking convenient if your whole, like, if your goal as Euruska is producing fuel in the field, to have things like pigs that are just naturally drawn to go consuming food, go collect food for you by eating shit, like corpses. And in a way, too, you're also denying your Europa that resource, be considering Europa is willing to eat people who are deceased. Essentially, what I'm saying is it makes too much sense. It needs to happen now. I would go to the trench lines out there, but I'm pretty fucking hurt at this point. Probably just need to dip. I'm not even like, they could be cyber pigs too. They could be like high-tech pigs, but like, you honestly could just go with like just normal fucking pigs and be basically pretty fine. The dystopian pigs, they would taste like pig. That's the beauty of pigs. You can't like test it after the fact and say, hey, this pig flesh came from a human. That's the beauty, is like they turn human meat into pig meat. They turn it into pork. And you can't tell where the pork came from, just that it's pork. You're in the middle of like a night shift map and you just hear out of the corner oink. You get shivers down your spine as you hear a few oinks coming from around the corner. Think of the possibilities. You can tan pig hides, can't you too? I don't think they're that useful, right? But you can tan pig hides, can't you? I guess that you could tan anything really at that point, but like, I feel like pig skin's pretty useful too, or at least fairly useful. I could definitely see instances, right, where like, I imagine paper's probably not very common here, and so you can almost see like pig hide being a way of like actually kind of like the clay tablets of Egypt, how they would write on those because they didn't really have paper. They had paper, but like, you know, they used clay tablets. Anyway, you kind of like see maybe pig hides be used in regards to actually like writing upon them because they don't have much paper around, and you would actually probably want the rigidity and the durability of actual hide to write on. I kind of was sold before, but I keep selling myself on this, by the way. All right, time for the 50 cal. So, going back to the talking point of like best gun, if you do not give an absolute shit about being silenced, you cannot do better than the Scar. Now, downside, it is a heavy rifle, so only a few characters can use it. But if you're willing to take the downside of not being able to use a silencer, it rewards you with power that most other guns wouldn't bother with. Now, unlike most guns, this will basically one-shot headshot almost everything in the game that you could kill. There's still a few instances where it can't do that, but like, if you don't one-shot headshot them, you're going to two-shot headshot them, and that's like the heaviest infantry that actually can do that. It's quite good. Where are you, piece of shit? This is the worst gun. This is the worst gun, the VKS. The reason why... right here. If you enjoy reloading more than you do shooting, welcome to the VKS. It fires basically a snub-nose 50 BMG, the Russian equivalent, right? It's supposed to be a CQB gun, but it only has a magazine capacity of 5, and does the same damage as 308. So VKS is awful. It's not even close. Like, there are plenty of bad there's plenty of bad gums. There's plenty of bad guns, but VKS takes the cake. It is just awful. AP9 Pro is up there Don't get me wrong. M4's good, yeah. Like the M4 AK RPK are the tried and true, right? They're just like this middle ground band. And typically speaking, you generally, if you play pretty aggressively and you use ammo, you can't keep enough ammo for only one gun type. And so you typically like rotate between the AK, the M4, and the SA-58. So each caliber type, right? 5.45, 5.56, and 308. Actually, all four of these. This is actually the trifecta right here. So like, these are like the four like high tier good rifles in the game. They each offer their own downsides and upsides. It's really only against these two. But you can't fault these two existing either. They're both perfectly fine options. RPK is the best for just having high magazine capacity plus power. SA-58 is the best for in regards to like having some ability to like kind of play stealthy with one-shot headshots. And these two are just solid all-around rifles. They're a little bit worse than the RPK, but not by much. The APC-9 Pro, like, it's not good, but it's at least 20 rounds of 9mm. You will kill more things with this than you will the VKS in one magazine. You can provide more suppressing fire with this to stagger things as opposed to the VKS. It's just... Also, the sights on the VKS are just awful too. Hey, Jerome. All right, come on. And then mech trench, and then we're good. No, but I am now completely sold on pigs. Jerome, it does. It's still heavily work in progress. There's still plenty of bugs and performance and gameplay stuff that still needs work when we worked on, but like every single patch they fix some bugs, they add some new things, they make performance a bit better. So after like 3 or 4 patches we've had so far, it's definitely better than it was at launch by a mile, but there's still plenty of miles left to go.
I'm too old for this shit.
If you were waiting for it to be like finally cooked and done in the oven, it's not there yet. Still got plenty of time in the oven left. Wait, how did a dog save you from Toothy? Oh, you're saying that dog killed you instead of Toothy. So they're on the same side. So for example, that elite soldier right there, most rifles will not one-shot headshot him. Only this or the FAL could, the SA-58. Sounds. That's amazing, actually. He's got kill stolen. But nah, yeah, coming over to here, right? Like, you could just throw some pigs in here and they would have a field day, right? I mean, this is easier, it doesn't require additional food chain or additional way of processing it. But like, if your goal was to necessarily not have to eat humans, pigs would do some fine work here. Pigs would clean this up. That is, doing the way they currently are doing required less work. That is correct. But like, imagine if Ruska just like got some pigs and threw them in here. Remember, the key point here being too, right? We're contrasting this mainly with cows. Like, if cows exist, it kind of begs the question, why not pigs? If the point with the cows is for them not to be useful for, like, growing and maintaining, sure. So you can hold power over people, I guess. But from a sheer usefulness standpoint, man, fuck. I feel like pigs would be super useful right now. Prairie fire, yeah. Just muffled enough where you can kind of understand them, but not really. In a way, honestly, Michael, I mean, to Mother Courage's being cybernetic recycling, you could kind of treat pigs as biological recycling. We've done some bad, Michael. I apologize to everyone in advance now, right? So we have Mother Courage and we have Daddy Pig. Yoruska's two-sided approach to recycling combat units. One for cybernetics, one for biomass. I guess you would call Eurasia, right? It's technically a Eurasian unit in the game, but like it's known that it's it's a dual kind of factor, right? They're worked on by both sides or both factions. Yeah, Daddy. Yeah, I was waiting for that. Yeah, I was waiting for the what the fuck. Sort of, kind of, in a way. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Vinny, God. You're rewarding me for saying things like Daddy Pig. This is not going the right way. No, but I something along. I could definitely like imagine getting to a map. Yeah, No Hud. We play basically no. I say this all the time. The HUD isn't bad, but it doesn't feel like it fits the setting perfectly, so it detracts from the ambiance of the game. So yeah, No HUD. The game looks way better without a HUD. No, but like imagine if you go to like a night shift map. Say for example you come on this map, right? And you get down to like that little recycling area and you just hear something munchy. Oh god. It's a setting in the game options. If it's right here. Gameplay, show HUD. Yeah, there's no way of making Daddy Pig sound good. I would say, I guess you could say Dad Pig, but that doesn't go well either. Father Pig, there we go. And naturally, we would want to probably equate it to something along the lines of historical context or novel context. So what's a good father figure we could say, right? So we have Mother Courage, right? And you know Mother Courage's like anti-war roots from the play. So we're looking for Daddy Pig, Too Late's Kid, and what's something that's like from a reference that could be kind of like equated to like father something that could be the shape of a pig. No, boar. Remember. So like, remember, Mother Courage isn't called Mother Courage because of she's a tall giant mom figure. If we called Mother Courage like we're currently calling Daddy Pig, it would be mother waifu, I guess. Mother people really like Mother Courage, I guess, like mother waifu, mother anime girl. So like saying Father Pig is kind of like along the lines of that, right? Dommy mommy. So we need to think of something that comes up in regards to like almost it could be its own thing too, right? But think of something that's kind of like maybe anti-war or rather all-consuming, right? What's the AI's name, by the way? What's the name of that thing? There's a book called I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream, and I can't remove this from your guys' memories, so I apologize in advance. AM. Oh yeah, the AM. Father Am. Ooh. It seems like most of you are already well aware of it. For those unaware, it is a trip. That book is a trip. Interesting, but a trip. Or rather just call it Am. Like, just call Daddy Pig Am. Like, you know, Am, or just like other referential stuff. Father Ham. That's so on the nose.
Carry the fire in these pockets.
In a way, actually, that makes the kind of the name, like the name, kind of actually more interesting too, John, because it is just one letter shy of ham. So it's multi-referential. I could see Napoleon. Napoleon would be interesting. I could see that. I would say it would be kind of hard. I would kind of make it a bit more convoluted than that, Jordan, personally. I would probably like, you know, like Bonaparte or something along, like, yeah, from Animal Farm, naturally. But like, you would kind of maybe not, I guess you could do probably Bonaparte, like you could do Napoleon. I guess the only problem, right, is Napoleon's kind of like a proper noun. Like Mother Courage is a proper noun too, but Mother Courage kind of has, it's not, Mother Courage doesn't feel like a name, it feels like a unit, right? Napoleon or Bonaparte feels like an actual, like, this is a named thing, right, not a unit. Honey baked parental figure. Ooh, I wonder if we... So there is that kind of... I guess there... With Easter coming up too, right? There is the twist where you could point it more toward Easter and... Oh, that's multi-layered, actually. Fuck. Okay. So we're gonna pivot here, right? As opposed to just being strictly about, like, pork and that, think of it more in the terms of Easter, the Christian holiday, right? Because remember, Easter is also about the resurrection of Christ. And in a way, the pig is revitalizing or resurrecting the dead flesh of these creatures, right? From consuming it. So you could, in a way, actually frame the pig in that concept, right? Of it being this divine entity that comes by and resurrects the dead people from consuming them. That's metal as shit. And so maybe we should frame this rather in the context of Easter or that Christian holiday. Dust Ex Porkina. I don't know, I'm kind of sold on Easter at this point. Basically Lil Papa, yeah. And you could frame it in the way as such that, like, you know, it's kind of akin to, you know, resurrection in some capacity. So, like, maybe we're looking at maybe like Father Christ. Because the main thing you're looking for, right, is that... So Father Christ does two things, or it does a few things, right? It first gets you to equate the creature to that of Jesus Christ. But it also, by using the term Father, immediately pushes you toward the jump of equating it with the mothers, right? And if you know mothers recycle cyborgs, or you can see that they recycle cyborgs, it kind of points you to that Father Christ is recycling something else. And Christ being about the resurrection, and the pig being symbolic of, I guess, a meal you consume on Easter, generally speaking. You can kind of combine that all together. I feel like Messiah is a bit too ambiguous. I could see maybe Fernando if it was just named Messiah. Like, if it had one name and it was just called Messiah, perhaps, or I wouldn't, it needs something else. It needs an adjective, I think. Typically, I'm sold on my idea already, but that's because I'm, you know, naturally biased to my own ideas. I'm not against Messiah, but it needs something on top of it, Messiah. And considering we already have a bunch of crucifixes too, like, yeah, it does tie into like the whole like Christian sort of aspect also, right? And it would almost reinforce this perverse nature that's been taken to religion almost. If you have like these crucifixes around with cyborgs, and then you have this kind of giant boar-like warthog cybernetic mess that recycles bodies being called Father Christ. You could probably do an angel too, if you perhaps, like, I would have to look up the angels. I can't recall them exactly, but you could perhaps do an angel instead. Though I would say doing an angel would probably be less on the nose, but I believe that Seraphim's different. Seraphim is an angel, but Seraphim's a different type of angel. There's lots of different types of angels. There's a specific angel in regards to, I believe, bringing people to the afterlife or at the gates. Ooh. I like anointed a lot, guy on bench. Anointed swines. I wouldn't maybe use the word swine, but anointed, I love the angle of anointed a lot. Because it kind of makes them feel like they're these proclaimed or like holy creatures. I like anointed a lot. That's a great adjective. Abbot of the Tro. I mean, I like it for more comedic things as opposed to necessarily being like, Anointed of the Tro is a cool fucking name. I'm not sure if it would fit exactly what I'm going with here. Michael's just here to make funny names and I'm all for it. See, I'm unfamiliar with Trench Crusade. I've seen some art from Trench Crusade, it looks cool, but I'm not too familiar with some aspects of Trench Crusade. Or the more particular aspects. Because it's a cool concept, Blood, because it makes so much fucking sense in this setting. If we're gonna have cows, we have to have pigs. And before you know it, we're gonna be one giant animal farm. Chickens would work too. I mean, they have a little bit. I think chickens. Fuck you, rat king. I hate you. No. I could see chickens being a thing too, right? Naturally, because they can make eggs. In a way, it would be kind of a war pig, right, Iris? The creature that we're talking about, for the most part, is primarily reclamation, but I would also assume it's probably probable of combat. We're gonna watch Racking get wrecked. It's already lost its gun. All of you get to watch your heathen god die. No, you witness it. Witness how false your idol is. Any day now. I kind of feel like when they get into melee combat, it honestly needs to do enough damage where like the fights do not last this long. Mainly for just like ambiance too, right? Because they get stuck together sometimes. This can go on for a while. It does feel like they should probably separate a bit and just like, or sorry, rather kill each other immediately and then separate. I'm trying to think of which one you're referring to. I know basically nothing outside of like the ones that we have right now currently, right? Rip Rat King, he's dead. They've been pretty like tight-lipped about like exposing anything about the units that aren't in the game yet too. But no, I think where I landed on the pig is Father Christ or something anointed something. That's where we're currently at. All right, are you gonna be a good boy and escape properly this time? Let's be honest, probably not.
More to carry back.
And he's stuck. I freed him just through violence. Just to carry his body back. Yeah, shifting tide's like a one, like I guess one in like a 50% chance of getting it done. It basically solely depends on the path the NPC chooses on if you complete the quest or not. It's entirely outside of your control. I guess also one idea too, it's fun going deep and like coming up with very convoluted ideas. It could just be true that it should just be called War Pigs. I mean, that's pretty like on the nose and just like referential and also just simple and to the point. War Pigs. I wouldn't even go as far as say hogs, to be honest, because like War Pigs is like, it references lots of stuff. Just call it a warthog and just give it a turret on its back. Darius, I don't want to spoil anything coming soon. Speaking of, new video coming out, probably Wednesday, if I were to guess. I don't think I can get it done Tuesday in time, so we'll say Wednesday, but no spoilers. Daddy Piggy, oh no. It's just getting worse. We could also go around the route too, where we instead lean more toward the sin. So as opposed to necessarily saying, you know, Father Christ or war pigs, something like that, you could also just call it gluttony. Or going something along those like kind of lines, right?
Damn close call.
Father
What a
Glut.
day of close calls.
Naturally, I would say like calling a pig gluttony is kind of very generic, but it works. Man-eaters. I think the main hang-up really is I'm really just trying it to make it equivalent to Mother Courage. Like, Man-eater seems very on the nose, right, in regards to, like, yeah, they eat mans, they're man-eaters. I think if I was to go with a simple name, it would be War Pigs. And if I was to go more and more convoluted or more like nuanced or depth, I would start looking at lots of different aspects of like, yeah, theology mainly. And I would probably go to like, I'm not too familiar with Orthodox Christianity. I would probably go look into their sort of stuff and see how they celebrate Easter. They're not really scavengers per se, right? Rodfathers sounds like almost Nurgle-esque, right? They're not necessarily like spreading disease or famine. They're more of just reclaiming what was lost. They're in a way ascending the flesh to be alive once more. They are reclaiming biomass. Got it, we called them Tyranids. Understood. I could see bio something. I think Swines is just too on the nose. We don't call Mother Courage by her factual waifu anime nature, right? Hey Blinken, thanks for the follow. Is this the Blinken? Did Blaze send you this way? What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. And I also don't want to ask you to elaborate either. Also, I mean, Blaze is not banned in my chat, so if he's asking you to say something, he should probably just say it himself if he wants to be degenerate. Oh, places in YouTube chat. Got it. Understood. Dark piglets. I could see that, Iris. 100% communion, something communion based. I would say it gets a bit more. I guess the question I have for everyone now, right, is when you saw Mother Courage, right, was your first instinct equating her to the Mother Courage of the play? All right, 762. Wait, are you being genuine, Doob? I can't tell if this is sarcasm or not. It's the internet. It's perfectly fine if you're not. Like, not everyone's familiar with plays. Yeah, you never can know when someone's being sarcastic. I just want to make sure. Yeah, Mother Courage and Her Children's a play. It's an anti-war play. Showing the horrors of, I think it's World War I, right? I believe it's World War I.
I hate this.
But it's an anti-war theater piece. And naturally, Mother Courage, you know, and her children, the cyborgs. You know, there's a pretty clear picture being, it's a perversion, right? To some extent. Mother Courage and Her Children's an anti-war film, or sorry, play. And then instead in this game, you have Mother Courage and Her Children being this twisted machine of war. That was my feedback of this map to them was like, this is a map that's gonna, like, you can play it like 3 or 4 times and gets real old real quick. It's cool, but like there's not a lot to it, and the red palette's kind of fun, but like it looks cool, but it definitely has this factor where it like drowns everything out. Thank you, Iris, for the extra context. Ooh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't. It's hard because maps like Eclipse and this map look cool, the atmosphere, but they've definitely left the realm of like grounded, right, and kind of into the surreal, which I think is fine, right? But like, there's a reason why you only see Eclipse ever so often. It's in a way, those special maps being kind of this fugue surreal state, I think works. But it can't be overdone, right? And I think this map being its default kind of overdoes it. It leans from the grounded into the surreal. And because Eclipse Ashen Mesa is so surreal, it almost feels like you are kind of in this fugue state, this dream state, in this, you know, weird environment. But the normal is still there for its contrast. For sure, Nightcall. I don't know. I've kind of thrown like specific hopes out the window for patches. Like, naturally, my biggest hope is probably new units, new guns, or rather, I'm sorry, not new guns, but like totally reworked guns. That's probably not the case, but like new units would be a big factor. I want so much, but naturally I can't expect all that much because of bandwidth. So I try to keep myself pretty constrained in the wants I have. No. You don't see me, no. Yeah, not new guns. I mean, rather reworked guns. Yeah, and I mean, like, if it'd be one thing 2-0, or sorry, Blood. It'd be one thing too if like there was significant upgrades to the previous enemies to make them feel fresh again, but that's not the case currently. Like if they reworked old enemies to such a point where they felt fresh again, it'd be a different story entirely. Like new AIs, new movements, so on and so forth. Oh no, yeah, like the cultists and the water thieves are just reskinned kind of, yeah, units. I mean, we're not gonna get any new factions, right? We might get small factions like sub factions, but we're not gonna get any new big factions. It's so sad to me that we have all these cool destroyed buildings we can't do anything with because they're just empty. HCZ. It depends on a lot of factors, right? If you're okay with a journey and not a destination currently, sure. The game is rough right now, but if you really like the ambiance and like kind of the grimdark atmosphere, and you're okay with early access gameplay being rough, unpolished, and occasionally buggy, sure. But like, if you get frustrated easily at those things, probably hold off for a bit. Yeah, it's definitely vibes over gameplay right now, and it's probably gonna be that way for a while. But if you personally enjoy early access games, you'll probably get some joy out of it. But if you get frustrated easily at games that are still heavily in work in progress, definitely hold off. If you want to support the devs and you're okay with the journey, then yeah, sure, get onto it. But like, once again, just always temper your expectations. Witness, I guess it kind of depends, Witness, on your definition of another faction. If you mean like the cultists or the water thieves, sure. If you mean like a Europa Yoruska, no, not really. And I would much more rather appreciate, as opposed to laying out more skeletons that are empty, I would rather see them add some actual flesh to the skeletons. They've been doing a lot of skeleton building, some framework building so far, but right now it like you just pass over all of it right now because there's nothing really there. They need to add some substance in. So like, we've been going wide for a bit now. I would like to see them go taller for a while and focus more on like kind of building up a bit. Yeah, it fits a vibe. The basic thing I can say about the game, right? It definitely fulfills a niche in the market that I don't think was there yet, like was realized. It just depends on if they can capitalize. There we go. English is so fucking hard. If they can capitalize on it. That being said, I do hope they're willing to explore. I hope they don't pigeonhole themselves into the genre of extraction shooter. Because I think if they, nice Jacob, if they restrict themselves to define their game strictly in the confines of an extraction shooter, I think they're leaving a lot on the table. And interesting innovations in the genre. Going back to our previous conversation, I'm not sure if Marathon does anything interesting in the genre, and I'm reluctant to believe it's going to do well. I'm guessing Kylo's helicopter. There's also those APCs around that are destroyed that might actually function eventually. They're like the long, like, fire truck ones with Vulcans on the front. Yeah, I mean, naturally, we're going to see an RTS off, you know, this first game. I think there's interesting concepts to explore in the RTS space. And much like, I think... What's that new game coming out? That new RTS coming out? Fuck. I already forgot its name because it's painfully generic. Someone knows, right? Someone gonna remind me. What's that new RTS coming out called? It's like Command and Conquer. No, Broken Arrow actually looks interesting. Broken Arrow is that, No, it's like the Command and Conquer one. Broken Arrow actually look. I might sign on. Broken Arrow is like basically a, I don't think it's from Eugene Systems, but it's like a wargame game. And wargame was great. Wargame was actually a refreshing take on the RTS genre for a while. It's like on the nose Command and Conquer. Miles even mentioned it in a video once too. I just can't recall what it was. But essentially, like, I don't think that game's gonna, like, it's gonna appeal to, like, the boomer RTS crowd. But it doesn't really do, I played the demo for it, right? It doesn't feel like it does anything interesting in the space, really. Like, it's going to appeal to the people who wanted a traditional RTS. But that's not really that many people. But if their goal was to make just an old-style RTS, I think they hit the nail on the head. Yeah, Tempest, there we go. Tempest Rising. There we go, Sammy. Yes, Tempest Rising is what it's called. Like, if Tempest Rising's goal was to appealing to the old, like, style of RTS, Command and Conquer wise, they hit that nail on the head. Now, is there a giant market for that? I don't think so. You're gonna appeal to the older crowds who kind of want some nostalgic RTSs in the modern day, but that's really about it. Yeah, Hyper, in a way, I would say Dune Spice Wars does actually a pretty good job in that regard. The only problem is their budget was too small and their resources too scarce, that they really couldn't make the game an actual RTS. For those unfamiliar, Dune Spice Wars almost plays like a board game. It's like a weird 4x RTS hybrid, where it does play in real time, but it feels... It's got a very unique feeling to it. And the problem is it does this kind of weird middle ground thing, right? Where it doesn't appeal to like very hardcore 4x players, and it doesn't appeal to very hardcore RTS players, but people who kind of like both genres, it appeals to massively. Yeah, it's still got a small scene. Like it's not... It's kind of in this very big lull, and it's got a good scene, like a small scene, but I know that the developers talked about being, it's not a direct ripoff, but they might have been inspired by the board game. They did mention the board game a few times, but I don't think it's a direct ripoff of the board game. They're actually, I think the actual board game is on Steam right now. You can actually buy the board game. And just play that instead, but it's inspired but not directly related to. But no, like, I was into it for a while. I think the only problem I had with Dune Spice Wars is just ultimately just ran into issues in regards to time and money. And the game they put out was good, but it just like it left a lot on the table because of its constraints, which are realistic, right? Like sometimes you can't, you know, all projects are amalgamations of compromises, right? Wait, why am I picking up this?
Critical in regards to Dune Spice Wars or regards to like other games? Oh, for Everwinter, for sure. Yeah, like 100%. Like there is plenty of creative space to go into here. And I guess my point in regards to this game is when I want them to, I am curious to see how willing they are to go outside of just the traditional extraction shooter space. Because it would inform me how I feel about them in, say, future projects, like, for example, making a non-traditional RTS. Let's go back over to the FAL. There's like almost endless opportunities in the space depending on where they want to go with it. It kind of depends on, are they interested in doing kind of non-traditional gameplay loops. Yeah, their original prototypes is kind of like Elephant Mausoleums plus Scrapyard plus Mech Trench. And it kind of was a sprawling battlefield of combat taking place and then moving through it. And naturally, for performance reasons, they had to axe that.
I hate this.
So in a way, the extraction shooter type we have here is kind of almost like a compromise because they couldn't do a larger scale version of the game. Which is fair. And I will say too, like them choosing, I mean, it probably can blood. It just depends on if they have the resources to do that, right? It's not something like UE5 can do out of the box. Just Merv, not in this game, not at that scale. I would be surprised if we see maps larger than Frozen Swamp in the game. And naturally, they're going to refine things and hopefully get more combat in and better respawns and better animations in. But like, other than that, like scale-wise, we're probably going to be constrained to what we have. But blood, a lot of it has to do more of is there is a reason when you have specific games trying to do something, they usually design the engine from the ground up to do that thing. And my favorite example of this is Supreme Commander, right? Supreme Commander did something that in that day where it came out was not really something that was possible. It had gigantic amounts of combat going on at the screen at the same time while keeping performance up during those times, right? And that's because it kind of had to be, the engine was built from the ground up to facilitate that. In a game like this that's using a generic tool out of the box, it requires technical experts who are only there to work on the engine and make it performative, right? To do stuff for your game. They're not creating content for your game, they're making the game just run better. And the problem is too, you kind of need to get them, you can get them later on, right? But naturally you probably want them when you're designing your game in the first place to actually make your engine work or make your modifications work while you're testing, right? So bringing them out in later on of the cycle, just, I'm not saying they wouldn't be valuable, but they're working with a backlog essentially. Yeah, like, it's also, Michael, in a way too of figuring out clever solutions to problems like that, right? A lot of problems you can't just ham-fist your way through. You have to come up with clever solutions. And the solutions are typically a compromise too, right? They usually leave something on the table, right? in a way too, it feels like that's one of the aspects they're maybe having to wrestle with, is having to wrestle with kind of all of the compromises, essentially, right, that they have to make to get the game that they want and performative and so on and so forth. You can't have a fully simmed world, basically. Not without servers. And that was clearly a compromise, right? Like, they chose to do no servers. And in a way, that, like, that helps out immensely, right? No servers means no overhead. No money drain. You're not having to worry about, like, keeping someone on staff to scale up and down your solution depending on people coming in. Not getting blindsided by cloud bills too. Oh god. If you don't know, if you pay cloud services for their like software, like, they have different models naturally, but man, if you use a model that doesn't have a lot of bandwidth and you suddenly overshoot it, it's like, say for example you pay for like X amount of capacity in a month, right? And there is like an overage to allow your servers to stay online and accommodate more people. Imagine if you like get a boom, like say for example, like some big streamer covers your game and you suddenly sell like another like say 10-20k units and get a population increase of like 2 to 3 times. Are those servers already on hand and you're just burning money to keep them maintained, or do they need to be like run up immediately, or maybe it hits your overage and you start getting charged thousands of dollars a day, if not more? So, like, servers for an indie game have real downsides, and like they chose to not have servers, which is, I think, wise. I think it needed to be the case, but that comes with, you know, downsides too, of not being able to fully realize, you know, very large scenes full of complex characters requiring AI to run. Oh, 100% Gameplay. That's kind of my point too, in regards to, like, I'm okay with them not rendering things, especially far away. But, like, yeah, there needs to be some background simulations happening, right? Because it definitely breaks the immersion when you revisit the site the same time. Say, for example, if you go to the bunker on Ashen Mesa, if you leave and enter the bunker over and over again, for whatever reason, you'll see the exact same scenario happen with the same spawns, really, right? Because how Ashen Mesa is segmented up into spawn areas, and the spawns seem to be set after you load into the map, every time you leave and enter that area, it will just respawn the same things there that were there before. So there's no progression in the game at all, really, in that regards. Say, for example, if, like, you go to a bunker the first time, Europa and Yureska are fighting. Let's say Europa wins. If you leave and head back, it's Europa and Yureska fighting again. And say, for example, Yureska wins. You leave and come back, and it's the same thing again, right? Well, we're not gonna see that at all, right? They've actually said they're not doing that, which is perfectly fair, right? They want to have a level of their, like, customization, or like, not customization, but they want to have a level of, like, authenticity to their maps. I've never seen a chopper here before. This is quite new. I might remember one. It's been a very long time since I've ever seen a chopper here. I can see that, right, in the sense of, like, having certain areas. They definitely talked about that, right, in regards to having certain areas of maps having a degree of variance to them. I think it's pretty, I guess it's pretty rare. This is my first time, I think, seeing it. back in the very launch of the game too, what would happen also is that at the pipes entrance, or the pipes spawn on the map, I have my cigarette still. Did I consume my cigarettes? Or did I drop them already? Oh well. So back at the pipe spawn, one of the things that would happen is that you would see a scripted sequence of like 3 choppers flying past you. Apparently that was crashing the game for a lot of people, so they removed it for now. Oh, we're never going to see AI stuff for sure. God, no.
Easy day.
When we're mentioning procedurally generated stuff, we're more meaning like tiles and templates as opposed to like AI stuff. But no, we're never going to see AI stuff in this game. There's no, it's a game basically run by artists who are the ones who are like directly impacted by AI art. Yeah, no shot. Absolutely no shot. Zero out of 3, oh well. I think the chopper distracted me. I kind of forgot what quests we had. All right. I kind of want to do cemetery again. Let's do a non-conventional cemetery. Oh god, alpha threat. This is... I don't want to say the most difficult, but probably one of the most troubling quests in the game. The amount of spawns this quest causes on the map is ludicrous. And make cemetery like a living hellhole. Yeah, I don't... In a way, Doom, I kind of feel like that's almost... It's kind of... Yeah, I just don't ever see that happening, right? It's on the same level of like, hey, suddenly you wouldn't like this guy if he just shot someone, right? Hey, Bauer. Not yet. We should be probably seeing one, I guess, probably end of April, early to mid-May. But no, yeah, Doom, but I just... It's something so far outside the realm of what they would ever consider doing, I feel like, that it would be equatable to like saying you wouldn't like someone if they just shot someone in front of you. Yeah, like naturally, like the person would never do that, so I mean, I would never say Gunhead's the worst character for me. I would say it's Scav Girl by far. It's not even close. If you gave me an option of either playing Gunhead or Scav Girl, and that's all I could play for the rest of my life, Gunhead without choice, or not even close. Let's go over to RPK. Moya, it's not really to that area yet. AI isn't that smart. AI is the illusion of intelligence. And it's an amazingly good illusion. Trusting AI to do things like that well is a giant trap. Can you use it for brainstorming? Sure, I don't mind. Like honestly, that is what I view AI. I mean, I view AI as a brainstorming tool, right? It is a great way to break like a block, right? To get yourself started. It's kind of a mirror. It's a mirror you can talk to. And it will reply back to you, right? It's great for brainstorming. It's great for maybe getting an understanding of where you need to come from, right? But ultimately, it's just not anywhere close to where it needs to be yet. Can you elaborate, Moyai? Why do you not like brainstorming via AI? Yeah, it's an intelligent Google search. It is something that will give you a better result usually than Google will now, because Google is fucking awful nowadays. Like, it's always going to come to the belligerence of the user, Moyai, but as long as you are, you know, respectful to the fact that, like, AI is not going to do your job for you, it can be a useful wall to talk to, right? That's what I mean by brainstorming. Is it going to give you the idea to use? No, but can it help you spur your own creativity? Absolutely. I mean, that's perfectly fine if your key aspect is authenticity, right? You want your ideas to be bespoke to you. You don't want to feel like they're influenced from others. But like at the same time, I mean, isn't that just everything though? Do you not read books or consume media because it might influence you? Don't get me wrong, I understand where you're coming from, but like, and there's always clear cutoffs, right? But at the same time, yeah, this is why Alpha Threat's so crazy. And don't get me wrong, Moya, I'm the exact same way too. Like, for example, I DM D&D typically on Saturdays for my friends, and like, I generally avoid other D&D content creators, or like a few of my players like Critical Role, right? And I have enjoyed D&D shows in the past, so I probably would actually like it, but I am so afraid of like that influencing my DMing that I stay well and clear away from it, right? So quite literally parallel to what you're just mentioning, right? I feel like. But I recognize too that like everything I consume, right, will influence how I DM. I'm sorry. Holy shit. Oh god, this is why Alpha Threat's so bad. Let me in. Let me in. All right, well, I think it's time to leave. In my opinion, Scavgirl is the worst character because the only thing she has going for her is, oh my god, they're flying, is how fast she is. Hold on, there's more to it, but like I'm occupado. I want to leave. I went off this wild ride. I can close the door, thank God. Close the door. Yeah, this is why you don't pick up Alpha Threat, by the way. Scavgirl is the worst character because the prime sin is the rig juggling, right? When you're leveling her up. Having to level her up, and every time you level her up, lose access to your rig that you just upgraded sucks. She has the lowest HP in the game. She has speed, but she also loses a lot of that speed, or her acceleration rather, when you start carrying stuff. It's like, when your only benefit is how fast you are, it's gotta be ludicrous. And it's good, but it's not that crazy. You can still get killed. It can't save you from dying like HP would sometimes. And the rig juggling, right? No, Shaman in my opinion is like a fixed scav girl. If I want to play a fast character, I play Shaman. Shaman is a slightly slower, slightly slower fast girl. I just can't fucking English right now. Scav girl is a slightly slower shaman. Hold on, let me leave this fucking map, and so I can compose myself. Goddamn.
Hard run. At least we made it.
I need a visual aid right now for my broken brain. No, I mean, that toughest is such a... It's the most gimmicky map. I would call what Underground Cemetery is a gimmick. Okay. So, Scav Girl is really fast, but the problem with Scav Girl is you're leveling her up. You have to unlock your rigs. And I'll go ahead and do this right now so you understand. So characters have prestige levels, right? And prestige is basically leveling up. But when you level up, it kind of wipes your character. And what I mean by that is so I'm gonna unlock prestige now. Actually, so I have all of these skills unlocked, right? I'm going to prestige. And now, none of the skills are unlocked. And so what I gain for this, for prestiging up, is 40 extra HP. I'm a little bit faster while walking, and I have more experience cap, so I can unlock more of these skills. But say I get to 130k HP, or sorry, XP, I now have to prestige again to progress, right? And every time I do this, I lose access to my better rigs. And I hate that so fucking much. I do not like this whole aspect of like locking and unlocking rigs. It's like resetting progression arbitrarily. It feels really weird. So that's like the main culprit on why I do not like Scav Girl. However, if we go over to Shaman, Shaman is a slightly beefier, slightly slower Scav Girl who, as opposed to having to unlock rigs, actually gets benefits for the capacity in those rigs. So in a way, like, Shaman is a slight compromise from Scav Girl, but the actual feel of Shaman is a lot better since you don't have to constantly juggle the rigs. Character-wise, I think my lowest is Old Man. Oh, let's go ahead and just knock this out. Yeah, my lowest is Old Man is 12. Everything else is like 19 or above. Yeah, my lowest is Old Man, because Old Man has the same issue, right? Old Man has the same issue, for example, where he has to unlock his rigs, and so it feels awful for the longest time. Yeah, like, Drowsy, in a way, Gunhead is nice because despite Gunhead's inability to heal, he is just powerful right off the rip. He's got a good chunk of HP that will let you survive a few fights, and immediately gets access to the better rigs. And in a way, like, early on, you typically don't have a lot of medkits anyway, especially good ones. So having a character who can't heal is actually kind of a boon. Let's go over to the M4. We didn't get the prisoners. I was going to get the prisoners, I got distracted, okay? There was a lot of things going on. There is a reason why, like, what you just saw down there in Cemetery, like, I really like Alpha Threat, but Alpha Threat existing with the grabber down in Cemetery makes Alpha Threat miserable. But like, Alpha Threat's really cool, right? I really like the mixed squads. Having the cyborg handler and the bunch of scramblers is really cool. It's just, you don't really get to appreciate them because the dog is breathing down your neck and wanting to murder you. What map? I haven't done a Mesa in a while. Let's do Mesa Bunker, actually. No, Shaman and High Prestige is great. Yeah. And they've been refining the TTK, time to kill, for the NPCs, like every single patch. I think they've finally hit the point where, for regular infantry versus infantry fights, the TTK feels appropriate now, where it gives you enough breathing room where you can escape as long as you're vigilant. But if you like are caught in the open or you don't know what to do immediately, you will die. And so it does this good, like the TTK is right now to the point where if you have a plan on what to do if you start getting shot, you'll be okay. But if you panic, you die, which I think is a good trade-off. Typically speaking, I actually would say if you have to run directly away from a fight, in my realm of what to do when I start getting shot, running away directly away from the enemy is typically one of the latter options, right? It is an option depending on like where they are relative to me, but for the most part, general rule of thumb is like getting into cover or shooting back immediately because stagger is really strong. For those unfamiliar, when you shoot enemies, you can kind of see they're getting staggered, which means they can't shoot back at you, right? And that's super important. It's essentially your way of crowd controlling enemies. I personally would like to see it gone probably, or reworked quite a bit, but as of right now, it's like your only way of crowd control is just shooting things. Yeah, I usually, if I have a good piece of cover to hide behind, I'm much more preferential with usually taking the fight, but like letting them walk into my crosshair.
I live for this. Please.
Considering the AI right now is mainly focused on pathing to you and not necessarily boxing you in, like if you take an angle and just cover that angle, they will walk into your crosshair more often than not. It naturally depends, right? Like a left-handed angle won't work, but as long as you're right-hand sided here, like taking this fight is perfectly fine. Like if I could take this fight, sure. If I had to take this fight, then awful, like no. High Roller, it's a extraction shooter. There are several maps, not just one. The biggest is Frozen Swamp. Depending on how fast you play, Frozen Swamp is like a 10 to 15 minute run. Sometimes shorter if you go real fast. Most maps will usually land you in the 5 to 10-ish minute mark. Naturally, it depends on how fast you play. Earlier on will be slower. But typically speaking, I would say maps range between 5 and 15 minutes. Granted, you could go as slow as you want, but like that's generally my pacing. I mean, Moya, I would say like that's perfectly fair, but like at the same time, I would say $30 is pretty. It's definitely I would say a premium indie game. Like $30, I would say $40 is like a premium, like double A to AAA indie game. You know, AAA indie game's kind of redundant, but like a high quality indie game would say 40. Like this is a little bit less than that, so 30. But like I would say when you start getting to like very indie games, like 10 to 20. Scale difficulty. As you're learning things, it probably starts at like an 8. But as you learn like how the game functions and the tricks, it goes down to like a 3 or 4. Don't mind that. Don't look at it. That's just a side effect of stealth kills. Beginner friendly, like there's gonna be the game is definitely harder playing with co-op. You will generally draw the ire of more units when you're playing in co-op than as opposed to solo. Yes, we lost both our guns staring match. I would say if your primary Iris, I will say this. If you live close to your friends, I would say if you're like all European or you're all American, that's perfectly fine. If you're playing across the world, I would probably say wait for a bit. Peer-to-peer right now with high ping is not great. It's not a great experience right now. Yeah, and the biggest tip is always once you get Air Maki or Grill unlocked, buy suppressors. Buy one of every suppressor and then put one on every one of your guns. Do not play unsuppressed until you start learning the game. Like I have a new player video. It's mostly still up to date. Read the comments too for things that changed. I pinned one of them that's relevant. But the new player video does go over everything really that you probably want to know as a newer player. The biggest thing is just suppressors. Just have a suppressor. The really only big thing that's out of date with the new player guide is that you can't repair guns really at all anymore. You kind of can, but like if you're to the point where you're farming disabled guns, you've really run out of stuff to do. It is a very painful grind to try to grind on disabled guns in game. Yeah, the dog hugs you so much. Ammo is not rare. Every vendors reset every hour, and the vendors sell tons of ammo. So like, ammo is scarce. Ammo is not scarce. If you use a lot of it, you can have instances where you run out, but like, ammo is not rare. Mouse and keyboard. Oh god, you would never find me playing an FPS with a controller. Though I will say, on that note, Steven, they have been doing, like, every single patch they seem to kind of notice, or sorry, mention that they're doing controller support, or like working on controller support and functionality. Joy Boy, it's not really like Fallout. It's more equatable to Escape from Tarkov than Fallout, but it's not too much like Escape from Tarkov 2. It's an atmospheric, post-apocalyptic, grimdark extraction shooter, essentially. That's still heavily in early access. No. Steven, I did not rebind anything. There's definitely some features I'm hoping they include. A big one is a toggable key, yeah, whatever, key for No Hud. Essentially a way to, with a key press, turn off or on No Hud mode. I know a big feature too, people are asking for a camera mode, which is perfectly fair also. Yeah, soundtrack for the game is great. Let's do a Frozen Swamp. Frozen Swamp's the biggest map in the game currently. Oh my god, that's so cheap for injection well. That's never the case. But like, I would be surprised if we see bigger maps in Frozen Swamp. Yeah, so this is from Fundog Joy Boy, and they're a smaller studio. I would be surprised if we get to that level of like quality as Space Marine 2 does. But it's kind of like a building blocks game, right? Where it's the first game from this studio. So we're hoping that they do well with this game and like using it as a building block for the future. Yeah, so Drowsy, as of right set, I think it's a reset of like, I think around midnight GMT, they do a reset. So like around 7, I think EST, and essentially the water costs will change on the map. I think it's just random. I think that's basically about it. It's definitely cool, Joy Boy. If you love the ambiance of it, and you're okay with like early access gameplay, it's definitely a pickup, but it's definitely early access. High Ruler, in my lore video, I go the lore that we know is in the first 8 minutes of that video. So if you just want to know the definitive like canonical lore, the first 8 minutes of that video is like everything I could piece together from actual sources of like first-hand sources. So anything from Fundog themselves, put out by Fundog themselves, or from creators like Rillo and Critical Rocket, who directly interact with Fundog for their videos. This is fine. We can get a drill too. Yeah, it's more, yeah, it's not really a traditional extraction shooter, Joy Boy. It's just using the templating of that kind of genre where like you pick a map and you load it and you kind of do stuff on that map and then leave. There's no PvP. There won't ever be PvP in this game. It's more of just the gimmick of load into a map, do things on the map, and then leave, and have the game be made up of a bunch of different maps. I think so, Iris. I mean, the reason why I'm saying that is because the reset seems to be, I think, at 7 p.m. EST for me, which would coincide with the time passing over GMT. And if you're unfamiliar too, Iris, there used to be a mechanic in the game that got gutted.
I hate the surface.
That was the water mechanic, and it was actually tied to the IRL clock on your computer. And thankfully they removed that, but yeah, they used to rely a lot more on your computer's clock than probably they should. Most dangerous enemy is probably the grabber. Like, the thing that will probably end up killing me the most is regular infantry, but like, as a bespoke unit, the grabber is probably the biggest cause of death. Mother Courage you can run away from. So the grabber is dangerous because it's got a one-shot mechanic. So if you are below 2k HP, it will one-shot you. And it's a scripted sync kill, right? So it will grab you, and like at that point where it grabs you, you have lost all agency, you are dead. So it becomes a game of either not aggroing the dog or staying above 2k HP. And the only characters that start above 2k HP at their start is Gunhead. And so every other character at the start can get one shot by dog. Now, naturally, as you progress and get more HP from leveling up, you know, you can get mass man above the threshold, you can get bag man above the threshold pretty easily. So, like, you can get some more characters who aren't one-shottable by dog, but no, it's rough. It's 50, but it's really 25. So before Gunhead, it was the max prestige was 25, and up to 25 every level, you get a little bit faster, 40 more HP, and so on and so forth. And that would give you, like, at 25 prestige, that would unlock every skill in the game for you for that character. Now, Gunhead's a bit different. He has a very, very large skill tree in comparison to other scavs. So in order to facilitate Gunhead's skill tree, they increased prestige to 50. And you don't get any benefits past 25. It's just the extra experience needed to allow Gunhead to unlock all of his skills. Sort of, Joy Boy. I would say we're well before the aspects that we have any, like, actually deep gameplay mechanics like Deep Rock does. The game's very progression light right now at the current time. So it's literally just like go in, play the map, do some quests, gather some loot, and leave. There's not really like this whole system like Deep Rock has. But it might get there eventually. Thanks, Hyrule. Appreciate it. Have a good one. All right, where's my jammer? There we go. No, the game is like starting out for sure. The game is like me being however many hours I'm at this point. It's always hard to remember too when you first start out with a new game how interesting that experience is and how atmospheric it is. And you'll have that for a long time. And so it's like, if you really vibe with the atmosphere of the game, like, it will do a lot of work for you. It takes a while before you start seeing the cracks when the facade starts to get worse, but like, if you like Grimdark and like the atmosphere, it will hold on for a long while. Yes, Gunhead can shoot with her gunhead. So when you play Gunhead, we'll play Gunhead next. You'll see him like target things with the box. That's essentially where his gunhead's pointing. We're good. By the way, if you want to stay here and go AFK, you can. It will basically give you infinite XP. You have to go AFK for a long time, but you can do it. But essentially that jammer kills drones, and the drones count as killed by you. So you get stuff for it. Yeah, we need to kill some water thieves. There you go. The RPD is pretty good. The shotgun got nerfed, so it's not as good anymore, but the RPD is a pretty solid choice. It's some nice extra firepower, especially when you're reloading, but like, yeah, it's not overwhelming. I don't think this map has hunter killers, actually. I know, sorry, it does. This map does have hunter killers. It's, let me rephrase. This map has HKs. It's actually very hard to trigger HKs on this map. You have to be very, very belligerent on this map to kill HKs or get HKs. I perhaps think that maybe the drones don't, because of how prevalent drones are on this map, they actually don't count toward threat to HKs. Like, in comparison to Mesa or other maps, it's really hard to get HKs in this map. It's not impossible. I have gotten EODs before, but like it's not, doesn't happen very often. XP gains a few different ways: kills, quests, looting, getting water. That when you have access to water, you get XP. So there's a lot of ways of getting quests or getting experience. It's just that like if you want to just like get XP out of the way, you can do that over there and just go AFK and like just leave the game open for a while and come back and you'll leave and you'll have tons of experience. Yeah, like almost like doing anything in this game gives you experience. It just usually requires you to actively do things like that. Cover, please. Clown car of water thieves. All right, quest is done. I would stay, but I think we might die if we get too aggressive with staying here. I think I might be out of meds. Yeah, I'm out of meds. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely still the part ego of like figuring it out too, trying to get a feel for things. I imagine, like, for all of the characters right now, I don't feel like we're in a final iteration of any of them.
Won't stop shaking.
Yeah, if you actively want to gain experience and money, probably one of the better ways is just farming the shit out of water. But, like, if you just want to go AFK for a long while, that definitely works in regards to just, like, farming those drones. Yeah, so if you do the water invasion, essentially if you get a water invasion, right, which is from doing really if you automate your water via the water bots, or if you do water thieves, you have a chance of getting an invasion. If you defend your innards versus the invasion and win, you unlock a water thieves mask for Old Man as one of his variants. And so, like, to elaborate, essentially when you play a character, they might have a few different variants, essentially skins, if you will. When you die as that character, you'll come back as a new version of that character with a slightly different skin. Essentially, it's kind of reinforcing this notion that the characters you're playing aren't characters, but more of archetypes. And so when that particular scav dies, someone takes up the mantle of that character. And so, like, I think most characters have, I'm not sure if Shaman does. I don't think Gunhead does either. See you, Jacob. But for the most part, any other character will have, when they die, a different skin. So these three then. I can't remember if Shaman has one or not. This is gonna kill me if I use it. Let me just go over to Vepper. We are a robot, we don't need that. Scrapyard. Yeah, I think they kind of just want to reinforce too, Iris, that like no one's immune in this world. Like it's not like you aren't a character that's special. When you die, you are dead. And when you frame it in that context too, you kind of not appreciate, but understand the prestige mechanic a bit more. It's still not the way how I would have done it, but I can kind of understand their viewpoint now and why prestige exists. It does not. So when you bring in Painless, you have the 500 rounds it comes with, and that's it. And the way I feel about it is it's going to be like maybe a bespoke weapon for dealing with, like, for those unfamiliar, Nitro Express is a round used for big game hunting. There's a variety of different calibers, but typically when you say Nitro Express, you are referring to a sporting cartridge meant for large game. Like, and I'm not typically talking about bears, I'm talking about like elephants. So it's a gigantic round meant for big game. And so how I'm kind of feeling like they're trying to frame Painless now is kind of one of your ways with maybe dealing with things like mothers and grabbers in the future. And maybe the ammo being scarce is kind of going to be a big thing. So as opposed to like necessarily making, you know, Mother Courage and invincible or so on and so forth, the means to deal with them is going to be hard to come by. I mean, Doomblade, I think that's like fair. It's definitely hard to strike that balance, I would say, Doomblade, of having characters feel like the same archetype, but also different to the point where it doesn't feel like the same scav anymore. Yes. I mean, if you want to see Nitro Express in action, so there's a YouTube channel called Kentucky Ballistics. He's a fun little guy. He does a lot of like big meme rounds. And so like you'll see him fire plenty off of Nitro Express, right? It's not a round that's going to break your wrist if you fire it, but it's a round where if you do not respect it, it's going to punish you. And keep in mind, the only two characters that can use Nitro Express are Gunhead and Bagnan, two very large characters or robotic characters, right? It's not like every character can use this Nitro Express painless rifle like Scav Girl. It's just only the two biggest with like giant or robotic arms. Like if your issue was Scav Girl using painless, then sure, I can understand that perhaps. But like it's not Scav Girl using it. So you can see here, Gunhead. Now, the audio is a bit bugged since this patch, so like you're not hearing it shoot, but you can see it shoot. I don't know, Maskman's kind of a jack of all trade characters, which means the specialist stuff like this you probably shouldn't get access to. From a gameplay perspective, I'm kind of more okay with Maskman not having access to it. Painless feels like a niche gun or specialist gun, and Maskman's too much of a generalist for that, it feels like. He is a gun person though, so like he gets access to all of the guns except for the very, very special ones. Now, I have to be mindful too, right, that I am Gunhead and I'm taking left-handed fights. Yeah, the biggest amount of Nitro Express 2 is it's a designation, it's not a specific caliber. So like, I believe there are Nitro Express rounds that are smaller than 50 cal, or rather like smaller in caliber than 50 cal. They could be longer cartridges, but you know. So like, the exact caliber we're dealing with is unknown, It could just be a different type of Nitro Express. It just depends. If it's a large game sporting cartridge, it's called Nitro Express essentially, but that doesn't really describe what exactly it is. Yeah, exactly, right? So it goes up from 47 up to, you know, 700. So like, yeah, it varies a lot. So you can see like the little box going over gunhead right now. That basically means we're targeting them with our gunhead. Hold on, that right there, that little white box. And so it's pretty powerful, right? But the thing is you can't reload it, so you don't get a lot of shots with it, but it is useful when you have it. Flying cyborgs! Yeah, you got like that definitely that aspect of glitchy, right? It's pretty powerful. The 36M is pretty powerful. It's the only thing that will one-shot every infantry in the game. Even the heavy infantry like ERS can. I mean, the whole thing with tanks now, too, are weird. Like, I could get into a whole huge, giant rant about the tanks in the game right now. They're all just so weird. Until we see armor, I think these are just going to be weird, too. For those unfamiliar, like, right now, armor doesn't really exist in the game. It's just everything has HP pools. And that means, like, essentially you can kill a tank with 9mm if you really wanted to. It would take you a long time to do it because 9mm doesn't have a lot of damage, but, like, you could do it, right? You could destroy a tank with 9mm. You could melee a tank too if you wanted to, yeah. The tanks don't have armor right now, so, like, it's just they have a bigger HP pool. And so until we see armor, like, it's just gonna be a little bit weird. Yeah, the tank sizing are very inconsistent too. Most of the tanks in game are too small, like by a significant factor. It's weird too, because if you look at the EXO video, when the EXO pulls off the tank's turret, it's actually just one guy inside. So it's almost like a scaled down T90 just for one person to operate. It's weird. So like it's a T90 in principle and silhouette, but it's not really a T90 anymore. It's more like a self-drivable tank. Like a crew for one, but I don't know. It takes a bit tier. It's a solid 8 out of 10. Starting out, and it gets a lot easier as you go. Getting used to the game's movement takes a while just because it's a bit quirky and can be a bit painful, but it takes some time. Alright, that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys again Wednesday. Probably a video on Wednesday too. I might get it out tomorrow. It's probably not the case. I don't have enough time, I think, today to get it done by tomorrow, but we'll see. Definitely Wednesday though. Take it easy, all, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye all.